For a single night, no man's land was every man's land.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more.
We are at St. Mary's Church in downtown St. Paul, and we're going to photograph 3 sets of war veterans.
Looking good. What happened to you here? You got a little crazy with the razor?
I don't know. Must have.
Post number 5 is a military post that is based in the west side in St. Paul. The purpose of this project, what I want to do is print this material and go and knock on the door of the Historical Society, and I can give this package to them so it's there for future generations.
Sweet. Are you okay there?
Mm-hmm.
What I like about portraiture is the contact with the people. So I can approach them and I can talk to them and I can learn a lot. And the main part of this is to understand.
I made it a point that our job was to gather, preserve, and share the history. For younger people and people not involved or haven't been in the military, sometimes it's hard for them to understand the sacrifices. So that's why I think it's important for people to acknowledge when they see a veteran and be respectful of the flag.
I don't know what keeps me going. I know that there's something that now is physical, that if I'm not photographing or looking for an image, I start to feel like anxious. There's a pleasure in this. When I have the camera in a tripod and where I'm looking at somebody, and when I look through the viewer and I say, yes, this is it, this is it. Maybe that's what keeps me going.
This piece is called Enduring Afghanistan. It is a commemoration of the American soldiers killed in Afghanistan. I wanted to do a map, and it felt to me that the way to make the map was to use materials that were significant. The chain link provides a grid. It also has a built-in symbolism and meaning to it, whether it is keeping us in or keeping us out or referencing other street side memorials that seem to spring up. We think about the memorial at the 9/11 site, the fencing, and the people putting things in fencing. The dog tags are a symbolic way of counting and keeping track of the soldiers who died, men and women. There's one dog tag for each American soldier killed. Most of the dog tags are where most of the deaths occur. So there's many more here than at the very top, and it will grow, I assume. When I'm working on it, I'm counting to see how deep the layers of tags are, and the deeper it gets, the harder it is to maintain a grid or any sense of structure. It becomes more chaotic, which I suppose is a reflection of the reality of Afghanistan. I like the sound of it a lot. It has a kind of eerie presence, and when I work on it, I can hear it speaking back to me. None of the dog tags have names on them, so it is important to me to keep track of the names. So I write them all in this book. I like using the handwriting like a drawing so that each signature is complete. The other thing that happens when you do this is I can't really make any mistakes. So I have to concentrate on the name. So it becomes a kind of meditation because I look at the name, I say the name, I write the name in order to be careful to not make any errors in it.
The first trick is to get everybody's attention. Oh, wait a minute, I'm the civilian in the group. The plan for today, assemble the parts that we've got there to make the biggest possible impact.
You're about that much right now.
We'll just blow it up and take it apart again.
There's probably gray-headed screws and we can't find them.
Put the floor in enough so we can stand on it.
Inside diameter of the cart is 43.
The mast is ready to be slid into place. It'll travel without the greenhouses and without the chin bubbles.
I just try to bring it up and make it look like it did in Vietnam.
The 1968 exhibit is a major traveling exhibition on the year 1968 in American culture and politics. We chose this year the most turbulent and volatile, really, in 20th century American history, really in world history. The upheavals of the 1960s kind of all condensed and collapsed into that one year. This collision of shocking events, really.
Police arrested 5 persons as disorderly. 3 were grabbed when they rushed the parade float.
The year ends on a really kind of hopeful and quiet note in December. At Christmas time, Apollo 8 is launched. That left this people feeling a little bit more hopeful about the future. It all kind of condensed and compressed into this single year, and we took it upon ourselves to see if we could do that in a 3-dimensional exhibit.
We will be able to drive up to the back of the helicopter and then set and nest the aft section in. We were challenged to start out the exhibit with a Huey helicopter. I took on the project and was assigned to find a Huey helicopter and make it portable so that it can travel with the exhibit. Most of the guys that have the really experience in the helicopter are Vietnam vets. They were pilots. There's 3 or 4 pilots. There's several of them were crew chiefs, and then just some other guys that had served. And so we've tapped into this really neat group of volunteers, and they are intensely familiar with this helicopter. They know it, every nut and bolt of what needs to be here. Okay, well, go to work. And we happened to find this Huey helicopter in Olympia, Washington. The airframe is damaged on it. None of the things that we have are airworthy. We're taking a non-flyable Huey and making it even more non-flyable.
What I'm attempting to do is fabricate a hinge for the left pilot door.
Okay, aft section coming at you.
We'll just add a little filler.
We're about 3 or 4 inches on this side off. Center point here versus center point there.
See right where this one would go right here? That one goes over there.
This is part of the intake for the engine.
We're just trying to clean it up.
We're putting the stenciling down for United States Army.
One less thing that we have to deal with.
Make sure everything's connected.
Okay, it'll be good enough for a Huey that's not going to fly.
Well, because the 1968 project is a national traveling exhibit, everything has to fit on trucks and through doors. And this helicopter has to fit through this opening. Now, a Huey helicopter is 13'6" tall, and it's about 8'6" wide. So one of our engineering challenges has been that we need to be able to make it in enough pieces so it'll fit through this door. Of course, the helicopter, Huey helicopter, is built in one piece. We've already decided where are the good places to cut it and to make joints that will go back together when it's reassembled in the museum.
And we're just putting the stuff all together to have it on here. These are compass correction cards. They're going to go on the instrument panel.
Well, this project started to attract the attention of a bunch of guys that had some airplane experience. And we had worked with a few of them before on a project, an airplane project for the History Center, Minnesota's Greatest Generation exhibit, a C-47.
And then they wanted us to work on this, and we put out the word, and we added more guys from the Vietnam era who know all about it, pilots, mechanics, crew chiefs, and the rest of it. So, and it's a group that's bonded together and exchanged their stories in this way, and it's a great experience.
And this actually goes in over there. So when they started this project, I was pretty excited about it, and every Wednesday I come down to meet with the guys and to work on it. It's been really a kind of a love of working on the machine again, and bringing back my memory. They all ask me questions about this, so I have to try to recollect. And of course, I keep everything, so I have all my old manuals and such like that. And to be working with a bunch of guys that I've been working with is just tremendous.
Choosing a helicopter to represent in the exhibit, we chose to recreate a medevac, specifically because the story is about saving lives and not taking them. And so we wanted to represent that in the museum. And in fact, if you talk to all these guys, that's what their job was. Sure, they had to shoot, but at the same time, their job was to save lives.
South Vietnamese had American troops keep supply lines open while attacking a huge Viet Cong installation, providing cover for the assault wave.
It was a difficult part of life, obviously. I got married just 2 months before I was drafted, and my wife was 7.5 months pregnant when I left for Vietnam. And those were difficult issues. I'm certainly not unique to that. Many of us had that. I found the military difficult because I really didn't want to be there. And you know, I was just drafted into service, and it was characterized by just a lot of hard work. We didn't stand down at all as a helicopter company. We kept busy, and I know that what I did was important to someone else surviving and getting home. So that's what was my real motivation in Vietnam, is to keep guys alive, even though I didn't know who they were and they didn't know who I was. When it came time to go home, I wasn't going to hang around. I got out of there as fast as I could get out of there. I'm absolutely thrilled about this, traveling around the country and seeing this, because I think Vietnam War is misunderstood in many ways, and hopefully this will bring some understanding to that period of time. I want to concentrate more on the fact that most of us, and I associate and know a lot of Vietnam vets, all were successful in life. It doesn't mean that we were millionaires or anything, but we successfully raised families. In the memory of those who didn't make it, we owe it to them to be successful in life and work hard, you know, and it's just a very good way of honoring them. They didn't get to do what I've done, didn't get to raise children, you know, have a good job, do what I'm doing today as an old man.
So I am going to be asking you kind of like about your time in Vietnam.
Okay.
And I really believe that a photographer or an image maker has a civic responsibility. This work on the legacy, my little portrait of an ecocide, work that I've been doing both in Vietnam and with the Minnesota vets, is sort of a metaphorical project for me. On a personal level, I had friends who were affected with cancers and illnesses related to their time in service in Vietnam, Agent Orange and Dioxin exposure. And at the same time, we were yet again ramping up to go to war again in Iraq. And I think something snapped for me. I think suddenly nothing made sense anymore. And I kind of gave myself an unpaid leave of absence and went to Vietnam to just do research. So this was 2007. And quickly saw effects on families and children. So then I was really fortunate. I was given a state arts board grant to return to Vietnam to actually photograph families in villages and small towns. The encapsulation of that particular trip and being with those families was that I felt like I was on the inside of a prayer. I can't ever talk about it without getting really emotional because it just really doesn't seem fair in life that so many people have to live with something that I feel really culpable for, that particular war. And I met so many people who do it with such grace. And these women have to care for these kids, and some of them are now like 39 years old, and some of them are babies, you know? People are still being born affected. I photographed second, third, and beginning fourth generation.
I was exposed to Agent Orange, mainly from my job in Vietnam, and also from the excessive spraying around the bases, you know. The nerve is dead on both arms. And that's what's happening to my feet now, and my legs, the exact same thing. The feet are just like...
So then the second part of the legacy seems to me the effects on the soldiers, and what's clearest to me is that they have paid for that very deeply. And so have their families and their kids and some of their grandkids and all the rest of their lives.
Yeah, we've got our penance to pay.
I'm trying to understand the cost that they've had to pay and what that's like for them. I do want to understand that. For me, the Vietnam-American War acts as a metaphor for the long-term effects, guaranteed effects of any war.
During the winter of 1914, it was not unusual for little groups of men to gather in the front trench and there hold impromptu concerts. The Germans did much the same. And on calm evenings, the songs from one line floated to the trenches on the other side and were there received with applause and sometimes calls for an encore. Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. Deutschland, liebe alles, liebe.
All Is Calm is a piece I created in collaboration with Cantus, a wonderful vocal ensemble based here in the Twin Cities. It's based on the Christmas Truce of World War I.
What would happen, I wonder, if the armies suddenly and simultaneously went on strike?
Ultimately, I think it's story that I'm drawn to. Stories that move people, stories that I think can transform the way people look at the world. And certainly one of those moments is the truce. I grew up in a small Minnesota town, but we had a really great theater and music community. I did a dozen musicals in high school, went to college at St. John's University, and then moved away to Washington, D.C. to do an internship at the Kennedy Center. I decided then that I would shift from a performance focus to directing, mainly because I wanted to study all aspects. I wanted to study design, literature, history, criticism, acting, and directing would allow me to utilize all of those passions. So I moved to Minneapolis in order to assist Garland Wright at the Guthrie Theater. To be honest, I didn't think I would stay in the Twin Cities, but it's been an incredibly supportive community for me and a thriving arts community, so I've been here for almost 20 years.
We marched forward to the trenches like Father Christmas, with parcels hanging from us. We placed a tiny Christmas tree in a dugout, the company commander, myself, lieutenant, and the 2 orderlies. We placed a second lighted tree on the parapet. Hugo Clem of the 133rd Saxon Regiment.
The first year of the war, 1914, the soldiers put down their guns and met in no man's land to celebrate Christmas together. And I thought, I studied World War I. I don't remember any mention of the Christmas Truce. For such a remarkable event, why has it not been part of our history books? These men who executed the truce were the foot soldiers. They were the bottom of the barrel, and they executed peace. The text is pulled from letters home.
Say your prayers for me every night, so Dad'll come back to you. Bless you and good night. Dad.
War journals.
Starlight overhead. Blank stars. I'm wide awake. And some chap's dead.
Transcriptions from gravestones, World War I poetry. Part of All Is Calm is actually citing all of these different men after each piece of text, and we don't track them as traditional characters, but somehow hearing their names out loud, in my opinion, gives them the place in history that they deserve.
Maurice Laurentin, Commandant, CCM Company.
Dick Barron, 2nd London Mounted Brigade.
Patrick McGill, London Irish Regiment.
I don't think the Christmas Truce would have happened if it weren't for music. The men in November began to hold these impromptu concerts singing songs across the trenches from one side to the next. And it was music that instigated trust, humor, camaraderie. And without music, I don't think the truce would have happened. So I knew music had to be a vital element in our storytelling. And approached Cantus. They're trying to create chamber music and thinking of it outside of the box, much the same way Theatre Latino is taking musical theater and thinking of it outside of the box. Perhaps they'd be interested in a collaboration. So I approached them and said, I'm interested in creating a piece based on the Christmas Truce of World War I. I have no idea what that looks like. I don't know its form. I don't know its structure. I don't know the style of the piece. And they said, doesn't matter. We want to do it. So the next step was to go to Europe and spend time on the Western Front. They're still digging up objects that were there when millions of men were buried in an unknown grave. So some of the artifacts that I've brought back were to echo parts of the story that I thought were important. Somehow the artifacts speak to that intimacy of the storytelling. To think that this button was worn by a man who probably didn't come home from the war, that these photographs of sons inspired the telling of the story in a way that is hopefully intimate and honest, and giving these nameless faces a place in history.
Then one German took a chance and jumped up on top of the trench and shouted out, "Happy Christmas, Tommy!" So of course, our boy said, if he can do it, we can do it. So we all jumped up. Our sergeant major shouted, "Get down!" But we said, "Shut up, Sergeant. It's Christmas time."
All Is Calm is staged very simply. Part of the challenge was hundreds, if not thousands of men took part in this truce. And that's epic. And I think sometimes the theater is best served by intimacy. Film gets to be epic in a way that the theater doesn't.
And there they were, shaking hands like a couple of long-lost school chums. It was unbelievable.
I often tell actors that which is most intimate, that is, which is most vulnerable, is ultimately most epic because it illuminates more about the human experience than any vast camera shot could. And my hope is that the audience then activates their imagination and allows the words to actually paint their own picture in their minds.
For a single night, no man's land was every man's land.
I think as an artist, my passion is bringing a story to an audience in the most visceral way possible. And that this story that was somehow denied its place in history books has now had that kind of audience is humbling and profound, I think.
Yes, I think it was a sight one will never see again. Second Lieutenant Arthur Pellenburn of the 6th Gordon Highlanders.
This program is made possible by the state's Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.